Ping, we're live. It is the website one kickoff. Woohoo! Here we are! Yay! Okay. So I don't know if anybody had a chance to check out the retrospectives doc. Let's just do a quick check of that before we get on with kicking off. Here is that document. Let me put the screen share on. Here we go. Yeah, so struggles, we'll just go through. Yeah, so this was me grappling with the code base. Was definitely feeling a bit lost at some points last week, but gradually getting in there. And then also, yeah, I mean, I spent most of Friday working with JavaScript testing. And I think Thomas is then responding to specifically Jasmine testing and saying it's not needed. I also spent a good hour and a half with some pretty earlier in the week, like teasing apart the GitHub commit count pull request, which I think we now got in a much better place, but it was definitely a bit of a struggle. Did you guys any struggles to identify from the last week?
Personally, I'm still not 100% good on my time.
So time management.
Yeah.
Is a struggle, indeed. And if anybody's got any comments about any of the other struggles. And if not, I guess we can move on. From that was the struggles from last week. Successes. So the kind of morass that I was in on Friday, where I seemed to have different versions of Phantom.js, you know, and upgrading would break one thing and downgrading would break another thing, was ultimately resolved by doing a complete upgrade of Capybara Poltergeist, which seems to have stabilized things. So I'm quite pleased about that. And I was also very pleased that at the end of all the Git things, we got a clean GitHub commit pull request. I think we can also put deployed time zone change to event page. So that was, I think, some of the successes from the last week. Any other successes or any comments on any of those successes?
Nothing that I can think of now.
And then suggestions. We have one from Michael. You mentioned the idea of having a VM for the setup.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically a one-day process to even attempt to get set up on website one.
Yeah.
You know, and for somebody just to ease the initial
onboarding
difficulty of getting on the product. I mean, most people probably they might use the VM for a little while, and then they'll know what they're doing, and they'll probably go set up their own thing.
Sure.
But I think it's kind of a put off for somebody that when they go to start, oh, there's a bug, I can go fix that real quick. Well, no, you actually can't go fix that real quick. First, you need to spend an entire day setting up a system to run all this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a problem. It's a problem that we've I think all the projects in AgileVentures have encountered, and it's frustrating because you know, we want people to be able to drop in, you know, like as you say, get a little bug fixed, you know, add a little feature, and if it takes, you know, 24 hours of, you know, and so on. We did go through a process of focusing on this in local support of trying to use Vagrant, and eventually, I mean, that's still sort of there, but then eventually gave up. I mean, we used to have a VM for the edX course, which
I mean, that's what I used.
I mean, you use that.
I used SassBook VM, and I didn't. It took me it took me probably a day to get it set up. But once I found the answers to the couple of questions, the couple of problems I was having, you know, it was relatively painless. But those are settings that, I mean, you could even take the SassBook VM, make those little changes, and essentially they should be able just to do a git pull and just a bundle, and it'll just kind of work.
Right. But that is that Okay, so you had to find answers to a couple of fixes. I mean, is the implication there? I mean, if we can set up, if there's anything we can do, I think we would all agree, would we not, that we want to make it easy for people to onboard. I mean, I think many of us, we all started on the VM. Local support started on the VM, and many people migrated from the VM, the edX one, to doing things raw on their computers. Is it more or better coordinated documentation that's needed, or is it a VM? I mean, I guess with Michael, are you saying the specific suggestion here is making a WSO like VM image, like the images that are available for edX?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's a VM that you just download, throw in a virtual box, and
Right.
you log in. You just go to do git clone and then bundle.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you know how to set that up, or are interested in working on that, be my guest. With the edX, we've kind of given up trying to maintain the VM. I've become a bit shy of maintaining the VM images for that, because of the incredibly long cycle time it would take to test things, like generating the VM image, and then it would have to all build, and then I'd have to get it somewhere else. Anyway, maybe it's all got easier. I mean, but that's part of the motivation that we moved to C9, and I wonder is that an even a simpler alternative as well.
Well, I mean, you can make a template on Cloud9. I mean, we can. I don't know the logistics of it, but I know you can do it. Like,
Yeah.
I know Rails Tutorial has their own little template on Cloud9.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe with I don't know what the deal is with Cloud9, and if you can just make your own template and publish it, or maybe
Yeah.
you have to pay, but because we're a nonprofit, maybe they'll let us do it for free. Especially since we're involved with edX. I mean, that's another option. Cloud9 it's essentially a VM. Well, it is a VM. It's just running in the cloud. I know the very initial version of edX, when it was Coursera, we were using AWS and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I've created a ticket for that. I think and probably the thing to do would just maybe investigate that a little bit further about what makes I would be very interested to find the specifics of the things that you had to get fixed up and so on. But I think that's definitely something that we should explore. Yeah, I don't know. Do Raoul and Thomas have any comments on this suggestion?
So I just want to quickly mention how I set up my environment. So when I got my Mac, I went onto the ThoughtBoth repository. They have a repository called Laptop, where they have a script that sets up your computer and installs all the stuff that they usually use for development. And so everything, I've never had any problems with any projects, using this. So whenever I have a new project, I just, work with it, and it's just fine. So eventually, with time, I get to, install personal libraries that I use and all that. But then that base script already does most of the work for me, And perhaps we can look into either suggesting using something like that for getting set up on the PC. They had a Linux version, but they stopped maintaining it. So I created a branch of it on my repository as well that I maintained for as long as I was using a Linux machine. But I don't mind going back and updating it if needed. So.
Yes,
maybe that could help. Something like that could help, perhaps people.
I think that's very interesting to hear that exists, and that might be very helpful indeed. Thomas, any thoughts? Oh, go on, Michael. Sorry.
I was going to say, just to play devil's advocate with that, the key piece of that, as you said, when you got your Mac, and for good or bad, most people don't have Macs. I myself, I but most people aren't going to have Macs. And if you Google around in the forums, or in the forums and stuff for setting up Rails on Windows, the general consensus is don't bother.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'd be,
Yeah.
I mean, I take your point, Michael. I think at the same time, it's interesting to. I mean, to play. What's the opposite of devil's advocate? I mean, I think like I totally like. I could not embrace your point more, Michael, in that I think that the success of our whole enterprise here is based upon the ability for people to get set up quickly and effectively. And I think the critical thing is as well is that we also, if we're maintaining a VM image or a C9 template or whatever, that also that there's not a, we have to look carefully at what is the maintenance overhead of maintaining that thing as well. Since we've been bitten by that before. But yes.
Yeah, I'd say. I mean, there's two different scenarios. There's one for the people that are using Linux or Mac, and I think that's a completely different scenario than the people that are using Windows, because the people that are using Windows, that solution isn't going to work. They're going to have to run a VM somewhere, be it on Cloud9, be it on VirtualBox, somewhere.
Right.
They're not going to be able to get this working on their local Windows box.
Yes. So I mean, and we've got several people. We've got several people who are using, like in local support, who are using Cloud9 exclusively, and it's working quite well for them. And I'm really loving the fact that the edX is on Cloud9, because there's a lot less maintenance that's required compared to the VM images that we had in the past. So, Thomas, any thoughts?
On the VM?
Oh, well, just, I mean, we're talking about this general issue of trying to smoothing the onboarding process, making it easier for new people to get set up with the project.
Yes,
and, there's a suggestion that we might put in work into, a PC script version of the ThoughtBot laptop, or a VM, or a C9, or better documentation, or obviously you've had very long and venerable experience with this project, so your input very much appreciated.
Yes, but my judgment can be clouded by that also. So I would say that instinctively, my first thought is that it's for me it's about resource allocation, and but it's a double-edged sword, because if Michael feels that he wants to work on this, I would welcome that very much. I would personally not allocate my time to do that, because I would prioritize that down a little bit. And the reason I'm saying is because it's all about a learning experience for me, So I think that setting up a project and overcoming those obstacles that arises is a learning experience in itself, and I think it's very valuable experience also. So, but then again, I'm conflicted, because smoothing, making the onboarding process smooth is also very valuable. So it's a little bit, I don't know, but mainly I would land in that, do we have resources enough to allocate to that task and to maintain it later on, etc., etc. I would rather go down another path that you already mentioned, and that's about the documentation. Which in itself is a complicated task, because somebody is on a OS X machine, somebody's on Ubuntu, somebody else is on Windows, just to mention a few. So maintaining the documentation and make everybody happy is also a gigantic task.
Yes, well, indeed, another which has its own maintenance overheads.
Yeah.
Yes,
so,
indeed.
So I would say, if we just say that if you run into some issues, reach out to the community and get help, because most probably somebody else has had that issue as well. Perhaps it's undocumented, but just by reaching out to people, you can get help. But then if somebody runs into something, document as much as possible and share with the community. I would say that's possible.
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, I definitely hear what you're saying there as well. But so I think shall we? I think we probably all agree that it's worth exploring some of the options here. I mean, I think Michael, if you're interested to look at, even just comparing what VM and C9 options are available to us, that would be most welcome. And we've got a ticket there for that. Does that sound like, is that something that you're interested in looking at a bit more?
Yeah, I can look at it a bit more. Just one comment or response at a time.
You
I'm
could also
probably
look at
I'm probably in the same boat as you. I view setting up the environment as kind of a learning experience.
Mm-mm.
But unfortunately, I don't think we can say that the majority of people would consider spending a day trying to set up an environment a learning experience. They might get frustrated and just go away.
I think I think you're probably right, and I mean I've done this within local support. Is a lot of that is about expectation setting, and it's difficult because yeah, people want to get it in there and do the like TDD BDD stuff, and although I think we can all agree that actually, you know, all of the things are a learning experience. People's expectations about what is the thing that they're going to be learning can lead them to get very frustrated with a particular spending time on one thing as opposed to another, and yeah, so it's complicated. Yes. Okay. Well, let's maybe we'll. Oh, sorry, Raoul. Did you have one more thing to say there that you were just saying? I mean, I see that you posted a link.
I was just gonna say maybe if someone is also interested in, we could also explore the Docker alternative. You know, maybe have a Docker container for. I don't know if there's someone who's worked with Docker before or something. So
that's
that's
another
also
thing.
something to explore.
Yeah, definitely worth exploring the options. So, well, I think that actually nicely segues us into the next suggestion here, which we've come out of this, which is you know, having this contributions MD file with a sort of a process that we've kind of you know, superficially agreed on, and this is so I think people are all familiar, right, with this contributions MD and how GitHub have standardized upon this being the place in which to sort of explain to your people on Git how you contribute to an open source project, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so I created a you know, an issue there to create a contributing MD file, and I just sort of copying what we've done in local support. I, you know, created a little contributing MD file there that describes in particular the waffle flow and the way in which, you know, you prefix the branch names or the feature names with or bug fix branches with the ID of the issue, and that the idea is that one creates an issue before one does a pull request and so on and so forth. But yes, so I started on that, and I assume everybody's had a chance to at least glance over that.
I have not. Can you link it?
Yes.
Or is that? Oh wait a minute. I can just go on Waffle and look at it.
Yeah. I mean, I can. I think this. Let me give you the link here. This will take you straight into seeing. But so it shouldn't be too controversial in as much as you know, when we talked about how Waffle works, you know, that this is sort of a description of that. Where it's potentially controversial is I hadn't realized quite how much existing documentation we had in various places which replicates some of these things. So, for example, we've got various documentation with, you know, even more detail and the little you know, images and things in the AgileVentures area, and then we've got also you know, stuff here relating to that in the wiki for website 1 relating to the pivotal tracker as we used to be using. And so yeah, I think that what's important is that we kind of consolidate on one. We pull. I mean, I would say we should be pulling the best bits of, you know, out of all of these areas and consolidating the documentation. Does that make sense in general, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much people read the README on the. Hello.
Hello, Raoul. You okay? Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, you all right? You might want to cut your
Can you
video.
guys hear me?
I can hear you. Do you want to? Should I shut down your video? Just we can maximize your audio feed. I've just turned off your video, Raoul. Yeah, go on. What were you saying?
I did. I was just saying that I'm not sure how much people read the README of the repository, because I think we do point to those wiki pages in the README file. You know, whether you want to contribute, you must read this document about it and setting up your environment for that. So I'm not sure how much people read that.
No, I agree. I mean, I think there's a general issue of you can write lots and lots and lots, and there's no guarantee that anybody will read it. I think there are some people who do read things, and it's slightly dangerous when things have got out of date. So we have, switched to moving to Waffle, and it seems to be working reasonably well. But for people coming in who might, link through, they will see in the wiki descriptions of how to do stuff with the pivotal tracker, which is now out of date. So, it makes sense to update that. I mean, I think the particular thing where I come from in my experience over the last couple of years is that I find that wikis they get kind of rough around the ears, and the direction I'm going on local support and in autograders is just to move all documentation actually under direct source control in the project itself. And that way there's kind of like, if people want to be making changes to it, they should be doing it through a pull request model, because otherwise we end up in a situation with the wiki where anybody, absolutely anybody can edit it, which is lovely. But if somebody, edits the project setup thing that someone else is working through with something that worked for their system but doesn't work for the other person's system, there's no kind of review process. Do you know what I mean?
I totally agree that the review process is one of the upsides with having everything under version control. So I think it's great. Again, as you already pointed out, we can have as much documentation as we want, but if people don't read it, they just don't read it, right?
Indeed.
So I think that it's very important to keep everything short and concise. That's one thing, and also up to date. That's another thing. So whether it's in the version control or in a wiki, we can still, the most important thing that is actually updated. And the problem we have with website 1 or had before is that a lot of people made comments, both on the website, on the AgileVentures.org site, where we have versions of the documents that they will move to the wiki and then back again, and so there was some confusion. And so today we are faced with a set of documents on website 1, then on the project page, then we have a set of documents in the wiki, and now we've made this switch to Waffle, and the README is not updated, so it points people to Pivotal Tracker. So it's a bit of a mess. So whatever we decide on is I'm all for it, as long as it means that somebody puts in the time and effort to clear out this mess.
And what I would propose is that we consolidate around contributions.md and the README MD and updating those. And I mean, I'm personally very happy to take the lead on ensuring that we pull things out of the wiki. And what I'd like to be doing in pages like this is, having got all of the good stuff out and under version control, is then be editing this page to say this page has moved to, and you can see it here under version control. And similarly with the wiki would be there.
So just a quick comment on that, because so we understand each other, that those pages on AgileVentures.org are version control. We have a
I understand that. Yes, I understand that.
But totally, I'm up for putting them all in one place. Another thing that I'm slightly worried about, but it's not a blocker from me anyway, is that the amount of documentation that we have on website 1 is fairly big.
Yes.
So having it all in 2 documents, which means the README and the contributing MD, could lead to substantially
too long a document.
Documents.
Well, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that all of that information would go into the README and into the contributions.md document. We would have a docs folder, right? Okay. And so the README and the contributions.md would be the way in.
Okay.
And they would be short and concise as possible, and then we would have a docs folder, that would then contain other markdown files that would have, any additional information that was required.
Yeah. So that leaves me with my final concern, and that is what is easiest to find. I understand that for you and me and a lot of other seniors, perhaps searching in the repo for documentation is one way to go. We built this document system on AgileVentures because we kind of perceive that that would be easier for people to find.
Yes.
Whether that is true or not is up for debate, of course, because we don't have any metrics on that. But you know, so what one good thing for us would be, I think, if we could somehow you know, go into the website, the project repository, and you know, have those documents displayed on the site as well. You know,
yes.
so to kind of connect these two.
Yes.
That would be the best way to go, I think, but it requires some resources and some development.
Yeah, well, I think that's something to continue to look into. I mean, I think my intuition is that, you know, this, you know, we're kind of replicating work that GitHub does well here. I think although it is version controlled, it doesn't have, you know, it doesn't have the overview of when someone makes an edit to one of these things, they don't do it through a pull request. And so I think that's where, you know, again, anybody can edit this and it can get, you know, woolly like a wiki, even though it is. I mean, the important point about things being under version control in here is not version control per se, because the wiki is version controlled. But both the existing wiki and the existing documents in AgileVentures are version controlled. The critical thing is that someone who wants to make a change to it has to propose it through a process. They have to do a pull request, and then that pull request gets reviewed. And I think that's you know, an important. That's the critical thing that I want.
But that's just one side of the story. I would say a very important side of the story. But again, the important thing is not changes per se. But also the ability for people to find that documentation. So, but yes.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yes, there's the ability to find the documentation. But yes, so we can potentially build a system that, you know, and this is again about making AgileVentures do, you know, not replicate work of others. If it can pull in the documents here so that they're easy to find without, you know, and we can then get rid of our own versioning system, then I think we can slim down the site. But so, yeah, it sounds like we're in general agreement about the direction. Obviously, there's concerns about, you know, we want to, you know, I guess the needs are, you know, we want, you know, a review process for doc updates. We want easy to find and also, you know, easy to contribute. You know, if there's a change that needs to be made. So what we want to do is we want to kind of try and get the sweet spot with all of these three things, right? These are the three key concerns. Am I right?
Kind of, yes, absolutely. From my side, what I'm also worried about, just as I have it said, you know, it's like, you know, for every pull request that is being made, the pressure on the project lead increases. And I know from my past experience that there's, you know, code reviews and all sort of reviews takes time, you know.
Yes.
So there's a balance there, of course. I just wanted to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So I'm not completely convinced that this will be the best change for the project leader and for the project itself. But also, I also assume that this is a decision for this particular project and not every other, like, or are we talking about a general AgileVenture workflow right now, or
no? I mean, I think in the first instance, I mean, this is the workflow that I'm adopting generally in my projects, and I'm finding much more comfortable and easier to manage in my projects. But it's an ongoing process. I mean, the same way in trying out Waffle, you know, it's worked well for the last couple of weeks with relatively low levels of activity. You know, maybe we will get to a point where we will find that it's not working well and we want to go back to Pivotal Tracker. I'm still using Pivotal Tracker for local support. Similarly for this, I mean, this is, you know, I think we need to do some consolidation with the documentation, but it's not an irrevocable change. And I think right now we're talking just specifically about trying to make. I mean, the highest priority I think needs to be that the documentation for the website one project is consistent, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I mean, I think in particular, what I'm looking for is we've got on this, you know, talking about pull requests as Thomas is that I'd like to, you know, go ahead and merge in this contributing MD. It's certainly not the end of the process, but I wanted to get particularly Michael and Raoul and Thomas's. Well, you've seen it already, but I'd like to go ahead and merge this in and kind of say, you know, like rather than me doing it unilaterally, is it all right for me to continue in this direction? I mean, obviously everything I do will go through pull requests and go through the normal review process. But does it seem like a reasonable thing to explore going in that direction for the next few weeks?
I would say that sure, but the README needs to be updated.
Yes, the README needs to be updated, but I guess the first thing is for at least at the moment it's the main people who are doing pull requests and reviewing are Raul, Michael, Thomas, myself. The question here is, does this match the model that we think we're using at the moment? And does this make sense? So I've done the same thing in.
I'll have to go through the document.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in that case, what I'll do is I will leave this pull request open, and I'll look forward to comments in the pull request about that. Oh, hey Sam, this doesn't make sense here, or this doesn't make sense here, and we can. I mean, because you're absolutely right, Thomas. It has to be linked in with the rest of the README and what have you. But at least between the four of us, we can get clear on. What's the waffle flow, and what's the all of the points that in here correspond to how we think and we can change this because it's not about me writing something down and then we will do it. It's about kind of coming to a workflow that we think works for us.
One comment. First of all, I fully support this. Myself, having just gone through trying to go through all of these documents, it is overwhelming and difficult to navigate through all the documents, and some they don't even necessarily all say the same thing and pointing at different places. So I definitely support moving everything to a centralized location like this. One note I will have on that the one contributing document that you're showing. There's a step in there at the beginning to make sure you are synced up with the develop branch. But there needs to be a subsequent step to say the same thing after you're done.
Okay.
Because it's not going to let you pull unless you sync up. I know I myself ran into that where I had one version and then I went and fixed my stuff and then I went to go do the pull request and I had to go Google around how in the world do I resync up with my branch and merge and stuff.
Yeah, well, excellent point. Yes, so I mean, feel free to add a comment in there to that effect, or indeed, like we've got. I mean, I've done this pull request from, a branch within the website one repo, so you can, in principle, just push changes directly to that branch, and it will automatically update the pull request.
Are you sure you can do that?
I believe you can.
That's not directly in the website one repo.
I believe it is.
You can.
It's in your fork of the repo. It can't actually create branches.
No, well, I think if I might be wrong.
No, but it is from the repository.
The branch here, this is the branch. It's in that pull request. I would encourage you, Michael, to experiment and see if you can push to that.
No, it is from the repo.
I think you can. I mean, and I think Raul and Thomas can also push directly to that branch.
Well, I think that we always had a restricted access to the main repository. You and I had a brief discussion about this in one of my questions. I think at least that members are.
I think in general the majority of members cannot, but I believe that we have Michael has write access.
I could do it, but the standard person.
No, the standard person can't.
Who's coming in? They're coming in here via a fork, and what I'm saying is they're coming in here via a fork. They're creating they create their pull request.
Yes.
Back off of their branch.
Absolutely, and I'm not suggesting changing that workflow for the majority of members. But I'm saying that, well, at least actually, no, and maybe we will agree that this is not for me personally, like for particularly for you three, who all have write access on the repository and are much more involved in the development of this than others. I would be very happy for you to push directly to this branch in order to update the documentation, in order to speed the process up. and that's what I've been, like the core maintainers of a project work in that's the way I've been doing it in other projects. I know that Raul, you pushed a like you sent a pull request to kind of my pull request before, and I kind of missed it.
Yeah.
I guess that's something else that we maybe it's not the time to get into discussing it now. I mean, what I would say is, because we're focusing in the first instance, the point that I was making originally is about this. The important thing is that we get this, this reflecting what we agree is the development process. So if you want to make, comments there, I mean, I can even, you've said it live. There's the kind of, where does it actually, I mean, maybe I haven't got the pull request. There's something here, like, so, we can put in, Michael says that we should also note to resync to develop before making pull request.
Right. That's going to happen before line 22 there.
Okay.
Right. It's before when they go to make the pull request, GitHub's going to complain.
Okay.
And it's going to say, hey, you aren't working on the latest version of develop.
Yeah. Okay, so line 22.
If I remember correctly, I'm relatively certain I ran into that issue.
Yeah. Anyhow, but all I'm saying is the key thing in my mind is that we do update this. I maybe made a mistake by even mentioning, but add comments in there in line. I think you can also, for us four here, as project maintainers, we can. I mean, not Free Ranger, for example, since he doesn't have access. I would say if it's faster, just push directly to that branch and let's get that merged in. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, well, we've finished up.
All right.
Going through there. Was there anything else that comes out of this the retro portion? So update contributing MD. And then we could move more into this section of, I guess, I think we've had some important discussion there. I guess the things that I'm hoping to do is, I mean, there's two pull requests that we could be looking at together. I guess before doing that, should we just? I think Michael, you're planning to work on this, allowing users to create events in their local time zone, and you had some questions or things that you're mulling over about the way to approach it. Do you want to just talk about that briefly?
Yeah. So I was thinking I don't necessarily want to take the user and necessarily just assume that they're entering the time in their local time zone, because there could be issues with that. Maybe they don't have JavaScript working. Who knows? So my idea was to just use the standard, time, whatever, but then also we include a field called time zone, and we can set that time zone field according via JavaScript, probe the browser and see what time zone they're in, kind of like we're doing local time. And then they just have a time zone field, just a select box, and they can either leave it as it is or change it, and then that gets sent in as an additional form. You'd have to make the change on the server side to actually look for that field, and then convert back over to UTC. Didn't know does anybody see a problem with that approach, or?
Sounds reasonable to me. Thomas, Raul?
I don't see a problem.
Yeah, good show. Is there anything else in your way moving forward on that? Michael, anything you need from us?
No. If that's the solution, I think I can get that implemented.
Great. Good show.
It'll just require it's going to require well, the browser side's relatively easy. It'll just be making sure nothing breaks on the server side, obviously. Cool.
Yes, and of course, I was thinking. I mean, we've upgraded. I mean, fingers crossed, the JavaScript and all, acceptance testing is a bit more stable now. We've upgraded Karimbar and Poltergeist, but we shall see. Fingers crossed there. Raoul, have you got any plans for the week going forward? I know you're very busy. What are you thinking of working on, if anything?
I haven't decided on any stories that I would like at this stage, so I'm just gonna be, the only thing I can like commit to is reviewing pull request and merging them. If ever I get time, then I'll work on something, perhaps pair with Thomas on the refactoring of the project page that he started.
Yeah. Good show. Yes. Oh well. On that note, just to draw people's attention to something that Sampri and I did with the GitHub commit thing is that the original pull request had a lot of different commits in it, which was merging a lot of other stuff that I think was maybe outdated code. But through a process of sort of cherry picking different pieces out, we managed to get down to just the original code from Jeff, some tests from Brian, a merge from Thomas that improved on the code, and then some additional bits from Raoul and a single one from me, and that came down actually to ultimately a much more manageable number of files to look through, and partly having got it down to that number of files, I was kind of actually able to get my head around the code a bit better and make some suggestions of some, I don't know, maybe relatively trivial, but like some of the longer methods. There are ways. I thought this was an interesting one. Coming from other programming languages, it's often quite common for people to sort of create an object like an array or a hash, and then loop through something with each and populate that element and then do something with it afterwards. And I've been picked up on this before when I've submitted to other Ruby projects, more seasoned Ruby programmers than me have pointed out that generally in if you see a sort of a thing like this in Ruby, you can usually get around with it, by just doing a direct reduce there, and you can sort of pass in a starting value and then do that directly. So I think that's quite a nice refactoring there. I remember Raoul, you and I we were looking at some refactorings previously. I thought this one might interest you. And then I was another one here. Was able to shorten something with a guard clause. So I've got actually these changes that I've made, the suggestions I've made here. I've got those ready to in a commit, ready to push up. But I just wanted to give you a chance to look at the kind of before and after before we moved on. But I guess you haven't had a chance to look at this pull request yet.
Not in depth.
No. Okay.
I saw you were changing some off key there.
Sorry, say again, Michael.
You were changing. I saw some kind of off key change.
Auth key change. Well, that was Raoul added. Is it that one? No,
not that one. This one.
This one here. Yes.
Okay. What is that doing?
So this is basically making sure that this settings. So we've got this in website, which I'm not so familiar with. Is this using the YAML files to store all the settings that you might want to have, and then so that means that this is accessed. Now, actually, all of this, the tests for all of this are being run in VCR. So the GitHub, it's not hitting the endpoint. It's like storing the network data. But in order for the for this to run in the test environment, if we don't have some sort of GitHub auth token kind of set up in the settings and available in production development and staging, then or particularly in test, production development and test. If we don't have available in test, then when the tests run this, so that was we had an earlier fail, and Raoul caught that, and the fix was this. Is that a correct explanation, Raoul?
Yeah.
And I guess
the auth token wasn't set up correctly it was missing in the setting files, so that's all I have to add.
Yeah, I guess we could actually remove this here, couldn't we? Because now if it's in settings.yaml, it doesn't need to be in production.yaml.
Say again?
Well, now that we have this in settings.yaml here,
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be here as well.
Technically no, and there's actually an error on that file there.
There is. Yeah.
The tag's not.
The tag's not closed, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, cool. There we go. Pull request for review, at least partially done. Well, anyway, I'll leave that, for you to have more of a look at, Raoul. If you're happy with these, my suggested changes, I'll push those up as well. Yeah. But so that brings us to the other one. We've got this events show page one to be pulled in as well. Oh, any other comments on this one, the GitHub commit refactor, while we're there? Hopefully we can.
I'll review it after this meeting, and then I'll add my comments if any.
Lovely, lovely. Yeah, and then we've got this. Thomas has worked quite hard to bring Brian's events page thing up to scratch. I think this is all working locally for me. I haven't spent as much time. I was meant to spend more time looking at it today, but basically, Thomas had realized earlier, and I had not realized until I kind of got deeply into it, that I wasn't able to do a cherry picking of this. I had been hoping it. I mean, it's a relatively large, number of changes on a variety of different bits and pieces, and I'd hoped to pull different parts of it out. But yeah, because of the way it's structured, it seems that I can't do that. But yeah, I think it's pretty much ready for merge. I don't know if you've had a chance to look through it, Raoul. Thomas and I have already talked about it.
I did.
Length.
I did browse through it like last weekend. I don't know if there was any change after that.
Yeah. No, not significant. I think and Thomas very kindly put back in the edit Hangout link, which I still use. The restart Hangout one is something that I did use in the past, but I have certainly not used in the last 2 years. And as Thomas points out to me, that this, that specifically this pull request is based on a feature which is about fixing, agreement made to reduce the complexity of the page. What disturbs me slightly is that as the client at the time, it kind of, it was, removing things that I would want to continue to have there. But I think we've got to a good compromise position with it now. Yeah. So I think that probably the thing to do is go ahead and merge it and get it out there, because I think it does improve the look of the events page.
Okay, so there are things that needs to be done in separate issues. That there is code that is not used and tests that are redundant. The Jasmine tests, as we spoke about, are just pointless for us at this point.
Yeah, so you removed them, right? You removed the Jasmine tests.
Yeah, well, the ones that I added that I couldn't get to work, but then this partial is still being used,
Right.
So the legacy tests are there, and they are loading a partial that is not longer used in production anymore.
Right.
Because of the way the Jasmine is used in this project. So so that's a bit of a problem, but I would say that this is a bigger issue for us, because there's a lot of stuff in this code base that is not used. For instance, we have a hookup controller, and I've been asking for a year's time what it actually does.
Right.
I removed it on a branch locally, and the whole application still runs perfectly.
Right.
So I don't know why it's there, basically. So I would say that we could definitely have an issue of going over either the entire code base or in pieces and remove code that is unused.
Sure. Yes, I think that's. Slimming it down is a definitely a good.
Yeah, because if we talk about onboarding people and complexity of the project, so this is definitely one way to reduce the complexity.
Yes, I think we should absolutely be removing things as appropriate. In the first instance, I've just created a task for reviewing what the Jasmine tests are doing. But yes, I mean, feel free. What I would say is, and of course, absolutely, we don't want to hold up individual pull requests on the basis that those things. And then the critical thing is, as we have thoughts about other things to do, is just, and you can do it through the GitHub interface or the Waffle interface or whatever. Just make tickets, ticket frenzy. So all those thoughts are there.
I'm on my cell right now, so that's
I'm great. Well, and that's why it's my pleasure to do that for you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
No, but so I removed, there were some queues that weren't used anymore, and I know that we have a lot of Cucumber steps commented out throughout the application. I had them commented out while this was a work in progress, and they are gone right now. And any other stuff that I added. So basically, what I went outside of the scope of this pull request, which I'm sorry for, because it's not professional. But other than that, I think it solves the problem right now, at least.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will. I think once we finish this meeting, I will review this and hopefully get it merged in. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So I think that kind of covers all the stuff in the. We've got enough to do with the current in progress and those. I think that the projects thing is a good thing to. I think we definitely people have commented on the flow and the visibility of the project, so that's high priority. If Thomas and Raoul, you get a chance to work on that, that's great. If not, of course, it's AgileVentures, it's not a problem. Is there anything else we need to coordinate? I feel like we're maybe are we drawing to a close? Has anybody got anything outstanding?
I'd like to say goodbye now because I have to go home. So I'm just outside of my front door. So
okay.
Thank you very much, guys.
Perfect timing. Thank you, Thomas. I do hope Jessica and Gigi are feeling better.
So do I.
Yeah. Have a lovely evening, and I'll catch up with you tomorrow.
Take it easy. Ciao.
Thanks, Thomas. Bye for now. Raoul and Michael, anything else on your mind that we should be doing, or questions we should be answering?
I have one note on that local page, or the event show page.
Oh yeah.
I saw everything. Was that just in UTC because you are showing us from UTC, or did we remove the local time from there?
I don't know. You mean like in here?
Right. Oh, wait a minute. What are we? Okay, yeah. Never mind. Oh, so is this what time is this? What time zone is that?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm just gonna pull these and run locally on my PC also and see what happens there.
Yeah, I mean that was probably what I'll be doing in a minute. I mean this is. I'm not sure if this is merged up to the. I mean, one of the things that I noticed in reviewing this is that there are. Did I see it in here? It's like we've got there's like a show local time range. There's various bits and pieces in here, so it certainly wouldn't hurt if you were interested, Michael, to pull this out and run this locally as Raoul is doing, and see if it makes sense with the changes that you've made to because you were making changes to the show page, right?
No, I didn't make it. I made changes to the index page.
Oh, sorry. Right.
I wasn't going to touch the
show page. Right. Okay. Yeah. Actually, so this makes changes to the show and the index page.
Show an index page.
Yeah, it does both of them. I mean, there's a general thing, and Thomas and I talked about it, but I think one of the things that we want to be very careful about going forward. I'll put it in here. That's not the right thing. Is that we want to make sure that, and I put notes. That's why I put a note specifically in the contribution thing here that to say that I think it's important that the pull request is on kind of a single coherent change, and that the commits in the pull request relate to themselves single even smaller granularity single coherent changes. And if you have multiple bits and pieces, then that makes both at the level of the commit and the level of the pull request, it makes managing and pulling them in much more challenging. So yeah. But yeah, so I think I don't know. tempted to wrap the kick up. I can't even speak now. I'm starting to lose my voice.
Tired.
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly available now for another period to maybe look in more detail at this pull request. I think I might go and get a cup of tea first. Is there anything that, in the context of the kickoff meeting and the plans for next week, that I mean, other things in the kickoff meeting, we can be reviewing other tickets and so on, but I think, we need to clear the current ones before we start biting off new ones. I guess technically Thomas has started the project. One is kind of in progress, in as much as, I don't know, well, did he put in a pull request or something? Anyway, but otherwise, any other concerns at the moment?
Nope.
Not for me.
Yeah, and so then just Michael, you have a concern about how this pull request is going to change things in the index page?
I'll look and see what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think, quite possibly, like, this image here was taken before your thing was merged in.
It looks like he added some local time stuff. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be local time. So that should be fine.
Okay, cool. All right, and Raul, did you just run this locally for you? Did it look like it made sense?
I'm just about to pull the code now.
Okay. Oh well, what I'll do is I'll maybe stop the broadcast there, and I'm gonna go make a cup of tea, and yeah, I guess I'll be online if people want to open another hangout. I can join, but I'm probably just gonna try and review this pull request, and we can coordinate on Slack or what have you. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
All right. Bye for now.